Yes, I did have the updated information on the Supreme Court verdicts regarding the two gay marriage cases.
Yes.
The first one being DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act. Pretty much the way both, and the other one, of course, being the Proposition 8, the California's voter-initiated ban on gay marriage. So the way these have both come out has, all in all, turned out to be a fairly positive result for the gay community. The Defense of Marriage Act was ruled unconstitutional, and this has a lot of interesting aspects to it. Number one, it means if your state actually does honor gay marriage, then on the federal level and on the state level, you can be entitled to the federal and state benefits that you're allowed to be entitled to. Seems like it's a no-brainer, but we had to fight it clear to the Supreme Court to get it done. So but it also brings some interesting things in the course of changes here for people that have been legally married like that for a few years. Because now, some of them, because of the federal government has their decision, they have had to file different tax returns and change things and do things differently. Now some of them are going to have to refile and change things and petition, and possibly they get more money back or save money, especially if it comes from estate or inheritance issues. They're going to be refiling all this stuff in an attempt to get their money back from the government based on the unconstitutionality of the verdict on that. So there's a lot that's going to come out of that, which did not surprise me. I totally thought that that's exactly how that one would come down. I pretty much figured Defense of Marriage Act would be history. So that one turned out pretty good. Now the Proposition 8, I honestly figured, because the Supreme Court had to be real careful on how they worded this. Because if they worded it wrong, it would make gay marriage legalized throughout the entire United States of America. And even they said in the arguments, we're not trying to do that just yet. They point blank said, just as good as said, we don't really think we want to do that just yet. We need to let the democratic process take place and still work it out in the states. So it was pretty much a given how they strongly hinted at it, that it wasn't going to be a...
But they have the power to do that, though?
Do they have the power to? Absolutely they do. They're the Supreme Court. They can have the power to do whatever they do, whatever they want, pretty much. Because it was, I believe, in the 1960s when they handed down the verdict in the Loving case. And the Loving case, I forget which state it was out of. I'm wanting to say it was one of the southern states that was banning interracial marriages. And the Supreme Court finally stepped in and said, no, you cannot ban interracial marriages. It's unconstitutional. And that happened in the 60s. So, if they can step in and do that, then they can step in and say you can't ban gay marriage. It's as simple as that. They're the Supreme Court. They can do it. But they openly said they didn't want to go that far. Okay, fine. Well, considering they didn't want to make it a clear across the United States ruling, I think considering for the narrowness that it is, it's a decent ruling. I'll give it that. I'll give it it's decent. Basically what they said was they determined on a procedural level that the people that passed Proposition 8, which were voters, had no legal right to defend it in court. And the reason they had no right to defend it in court was because they were not out anything. They did not lose anything. So since nothing was being taken away from them, they had no right to defend it. They were not an aggrieved party. So if they're not aggrieved and they can't show where they have lost anything or have suffered from any damages, they have no right to defend the bill or stand up for the bill or whatever. So it's getting sent back to the California Supreme Court, which means the California Supreme Court said, no, you can't give gay people the right to marry and let several of them marry and then take the right away from them. You can't do that. So regardless of if it was 52% of the voters of California that said, we don't want gay people getting married here, regardless, they already had the right, you can't take it away from them, it stands. So, as far as the state of California goes, the state of California will permanently have gay marriage at this point.
Wow.
So, but the Supreme Court found their way to do it without making it clear across the board in the United States. I'm a little disappointed with that, but honestly, that's about what I expected.
At what point are they going to have to, if people keep pushing, do you think they're going to have to revisit that?
Well, it will, but I bet you a lot of money it's not going to, it'll be, while these rulings are a major win for the gay community, I don't think, well, the ironic part was, if you look at the Loving case that had to do with interracial marriage, at the time, all but 12 states, I think it was, and this is really stretching my memory to go back to that case, but there was only like 12 or 16 states left that were still saying interracial couples could not get married. So in other words, the vast majority of the states had already said, we can't do that. So then the Supreme Court just went in and basically cleaned up the mess of the remaining 16. If you see those kind of numbers, I think, come about with gay marriage, then you'll probably see the Supreme Court be willing enough to step in and see it. But with it only having really like 12 states and one in the District of Columbia, I don't see them being, obviously, they're not that brave to do it yet. I think, personally, it'd be about 10 more years. That'd be just my educated guess. Unless you can find a way for some other type of law to come into effect and make it happen. Or the other option is that enough people drop off of the Supreme Court and enough people get put back on the Supreme Court to make it a liberal court instead of a primarily conservative court. Then you could swing a case right through there and knock it out of the park the whole way. Those are just the different examples I see on it.
All right. So there's your thorough review of, there's your thorough review if you guys want to know more about it. Because I honestly, I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to really delve into it that much myself. Like I said, I've been, busy with work today, and then I, just happened to catch some of this stuff about Paula Deen online. I said, I gotta get on this,
But these rulings are still bringing out some really good stuff that we'll be able to use for a few more years. So even though it may not have been as great as we would like it to have been, they're still bringing out some good stuff for us to use here. Because when you fight other court battles, and in other court battles, when you quote the Supreme Court,
you can reference this.
Right. You're using the precedent of what they have done, so that there gives you more legal leverage. And these cases were still in favor of the LGBT community, so that it's really still a good thing. It's not as good as we'd hoped for, but it's still very good. So I guess it's just another step in the fight.
Right. Yeah. And I can already tell that a lot of the people in the religious community are just burning up about this. They're just,
Oh yeah, they're pissed.
yeah. And a lot of us don't understand is they want to say that, compare this, and want to say that this is deviant, promoting deviant behavior, and what's next, are we going to allow people and animals to start getting married and all this stuff. It's just a lot of ignorance, I was listening to this show on XM Radio yesterday on Sirius on the Urban. It was on a station called the Urban View or something like that. It just really surprises me how a lot of these so-called Christians, how they really view gay people. Like, they really view them as less than human beings, as subhuman. And you call yourself Christian, but to me it's like you guys are so quick to sit here and pretty much use gays or the gay community as a scapegoat to everything that plagues our society now, but you don't want to not one time address the fact that you have some of these preachers sitting in here having sexual relations with underage boys and girls. You don't want to talk about the joblessness. You don't want to talk about homelessness. You don't want to talk about these underfunded schools that aren't really teaching our children anything. You don't want to talk about the crime rates that are plaguing our streets. You don't want to talk about gun violence. You don't want to talk about all these social ills. You don't want to talk about drug usage amongst teenagers and young mothers and all these things that are going on in the community, but yet you want to zero in and focus on the gay community. I don't understand these people in the so-called religious community that claim to they claim to proclaim the good news of Christ, but there's nothing good about what you're proclaiming, because a lot of times the church is not doing anything. The church is, and I'm not saying all churches, but the majority of them are not doing anything but building these big elaborate churches in these rundown neighborhoods. They're milking they're milking the community dry. They're taking from the people. They're robbing you Sunday after Sunday, and they're all doing it in the name of Jesus. You see what I'm saying? But yet you guys want to focus on gay marriage. You guys want to focus on the LGBT community. But to me, you have bigger issues to deal with. You're not talking about these deadbeat fathers that get these girls pregnant, and they aren't owning up and stepping up to their responsibility. You don't want to talk about that.
Yep.
But you want to talk about gay marriage, which really is not taking food out of your mouth. It's not taking
Exactly, because if they want to keep their marriage covenants holy for all of them straight people, they can do that.
But we already see how dysfunctional. They want to talk about the holy institution and the sanctity of marriage and all that stuff, but we see how sick and twisted and perverted and how serious people take within the heterosexual community, how serious they take their wedding vows in the institution of marriage. But you want to condemn gay people, but you guys don't even have it right. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I totally understand it. And but at the end of the day, there's only one way that there's really only one way you can wrap your brain around the stupidity and the irony. And there's only one way, because I'll ask this one question. What is the one thing that has killed more people, or what is the number one reason that more people have died in the entire world in the history of time?
Religion. Christianity.
Yep. Well, not necessarily even just Christianity, but for the most part it would be Christianity.
Anything else? Hold up. I'm not bashing the church. Let me get this straight. I just want to get this straight right now before, someone says anything. I'm not bashing, I'm bashing the institution, but I'm not bashing Christ. Let's put it like that.
Right. And I totally agree with you on that perspective there. But at the end of the day, more people have been killed in the name of God through their institutions than any other thing on the history of the planet.
But I guess gay marriage is I guess gay marriage tops that, huh?
I guess. But it's the only way you can actually wrap your brain around the insanity. And it still doesn't help it make any sense, but...
And I bet you my bottom dollar, I bet you 95% of these churches are going to go on one hell of a rant this Sunday about gay marriage. They pissed off. They pissed off at the world. I guarantee you, 95% of these churches that's open in Jesus' name are going to be talking that mess this Sunday. It's going to be one good old fish fry. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I know the church that I attended years ago, they started on that, and I got up and walked the hell out.
Yeah.
And never been back to it. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I got up and walked the hell out, and when they asked me my opinion, I said, I think you're all hypocrites, and I left. And that was a number of years ago.
Was this after the fact, or was this like right when you walked out?
What do you mean? I guess I don't understand.
What's there not to understand? I said, did they ask you what your opinion, like, at that point?
Yeah.
Or
Okay, I misunderstood your question there. As I was walking out, I believe their question was, Mr. Snyder, is something wrong? And that's when because I was just going to get up, keep my mouth shut, and walk out the door. Mind my own business. Just thinking, you know what, I don't agree with it. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, let them have their little service, and I'm walking out. And the question was, Mr. Snyder, is something wrong? So, yeah, I don't agree with you. I think you're all a bunch of hypocrites. And just left. Wasn't there to argue, wasn't there to fight with them, just was like, see ya, bye. Out of here. And there's more background to that story, but that's a story for another day. But the humorous part was that minister later ended up leaving his wife for a man. Yeah. To which, if you couldn't tell, that was part of the humor of why, I mentioned that they were hypocrites, because if you couldn't tell, you were blind. And, if they wanted to say I was just being slanderous, well, they can't say that because it turned out to be true. He left his wife for a man.
Ain't that
but I won't set foot in that place.
Have they tried to get you to come back since then?
Oh, no, they know better. No, I think they pretty well, that church would not bother to even send oh, please come back, or why don't we sit down and talk? No, they don't care. Besides, they want people to come to the church that make more money than I do.
To get what they can get, milk the people dry.
Yep.
Get them hyped up on a sense of emotionalism.
Mm-hmm.
And
I might add that this incident had occurred back in my very early 20s. Like, I'm thinking 20, 21, 21 or 22, I would say, right in there. And, I was trying to find my way with the world and trying to sort my own self out and figure out everything and put my own life together. And I had made my mind up that I knew what I would and would not stand for. And I knew what I would and would not tell the truth about. And I knew what I would, basically I knew I was going to tell the truth. I was going to stand up for what I was, and I wasn't going to be ashamed about what I was, even if it meant turning my back on the church because the church turned its back on me. And push come to shove, and I stood up for my beliefs. They didn't like it. I left.
Yeah.
So, oh well. But it was a different time back then. That was more than just a couple years ago.
He said more than a couple years ago, huh?
Yeah, it's more than just a couple.
Yeah. Yep, I just want to get on and do a quick update on, well, I know we talked about the whole DOMA and Prop 8 thing when it first surfaced, but I just wanted to get on and do an update on that tonight, and like I said, talk about a couple other stories and stuff, but yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how, this all pans out and what, is actually going to happen now that we have this ruling. It's going to be pretty interesting to see, what comes out of this. So